What's going on, guys? I'm Main Player here, and today we'll be taking a closer look at some of the things to expect in the Rise of Iron expansion in terms of new areas and also some of the changes in the Cosmodrome that you can access when you patrol the Plaguelands. So I've spotted some really interesting things going through the pictures we received quite a while back, and we'll be going through some of the cool things you may have missed and also some of my personal theories. So the first thing is actually pretty weird, and bear with me, I promise it's going somewhere. But if you take a look at this image, we can see we're in the Divide, of course, in the Cosmodrome, but you might not notice that one of those pod-like ball things is missing from the top of the colony ship. Pretty weird, but normally there are 3 pods, of course, but this thing has only 2. If you look at every single colony ship, they're built with 3 pods, but this one only has 2. Of course, if you go to the Cosmodrome right now and look at this very ship, you'll see it has 3 pods currently. But in the snubby new version of the Cosmodrome, it only has 2 pods. So for whatever reason, Bungie have gone through and removed one of these pods. Of course, this is the new version of the Cosmodrome in Rise of Iron, where time has passed and the landscape has changed. But for some reason, Bungie have gone through and removed this top pod from the ship. So it is pretty weird, and I was wondering why would they remove it. My personal theory is that I think the Devil Splicers actually took it and turned it into this thing you've probably seen quite a lot. I believe that top pod actually is this giant thing, whatever it is. I have no idea what the actual thing might be used for. I think the two do look very similar, and I think this is actually the same pod that was removed from the top of the colony ship. I think the Devil Splicers have taken it and they're doing something strange with it. Where they're doing is a whole nother question, but I think this is the same pod. It also kind of makes sense logically. I mean, if there's a giant pod ball thing that's missing from somewhere, and then another giant pod ball thing which has appeared somewhere else in the Cosmodrome, it's probably the same thing. So my logic is that this is the same item. Now the question is, what are they actually doing with this giant pod? It appears to be some kind of like giant servitor. Maybe they're worshipping it. Of course, the Fallen do worship their servitors. They're kind of like their gods. They supply them ether. Maybe it's some kind of storage for something. It could also be some kind of weapon or maybe bomb that does something in destructive matter to the world. But I don't think it's going to be coming alive. I don't think it's a live servitor. It appears to be some kind of machine. You can also see it's made out of actually plain wings. Of course, that makes a ton of sense as well. The Devil Splicers would have taken this stuff because the moth yards and most of the Cosmodrome is, of course, an abandoned giant shipyard. So they've taken parts of these planes and ships and actually attached them to this giant pod, and what they're doing with it, who knows. I do also have a personal theory that this is the entrance to the raid. Bungie have said numerous times and basically confirmed that this is part of the raid, and this area is somewhat involved with the raid somehow. My guess is that this is the beginning area and this is where you actually start the raid, and in multiple screenshots and gameplay snippets we've seen the players, a group of 6 of them, of course a raid team, they're all walking up this massive entrance and they're going to approach whatever this pod thing is. So I believe this is the entrance to the raid. Maybe this thing is called the Gatekeeper, and the reason the Fallen or Devil Splicers actually stole this thing and modified it is to make it the actual door and kind of be a protector to what's deep underground, and maybe it protects whatever Seaver stuff they've got going down there. But we know the end of the raid and a lot of it is going to be taking place underground, so I'm thinking this is how you get there. So those are some of my observations and theories about that giant pod that's been missing from the colony ship, and also what that giant thing is that we're going to be going to in the raid. The next thing I want to talk about is a new area that's going to be in the Rocketyard that we can see in some of the screenshots. And it is kind of hard to make out if you don't recognize the locations. This, of course, is the Rocketyard. Now, what appears to have happened is the splicers have carved open a part of this giant panel. This, of course, leads to nothing. This has never been a doorway before in Destiny. There's always been the area to the left, which leads off to King's Watch, but this isn't a door. So it appears that the splicers have, with whatever tool they use to cut open the metal like this, they've cut it open, and this is going to be another area. Now, what takes place beyond this doorway is anyone's guess, and I'm not going to speculate on what takes place beyond here, but we do know this is going to be a brand new area that's kind of opened up in the Rocketyard. It's pretty cool how it's not a direct door, it's literally just been cut open. Now, something else you can definitely expect in this area of the Rocketyard is going to be a remade version of the Sepix Prime Strike. Now, this is pretty much a guarantee. I think everyone can expect they're going to remake the strike. Bungie have already said they're going to be reprising some of the existing and Year 1 strikes. We don't know exactly all of them, but of course Sepix Prime is a guarantee, and the fact that this area has been rebuilt, of course, supports that, because this is the Rocketyard where you start off the Sepix Prime strikes. This is definitely going to be a remade area, and I can expect the entire build-up to the Sepix Prime is going to be remade in the same way that this Cosmodrome has been rebuilt. In terms of the lore, it's also very, very easy, the fact that Sepix Prime will come back. Now, even though Sepix Prime was killed a long time ago and you may think he's long dead, that is not exactly true with the Fallen. In the past, they already rebuilt Calyx Prime, who is a lost servitor, and they made Calyx Reborn, and the Fallen just kind of like somehow managed to rebuild a Prime servitor. And they also had Orbix Prime, who was killed, and once again, they made this Orbix Prime rebuilt version. So the Fallen seem to have the ability to rebuild their servitors, so with the Seaver tech, it's obviously going to happen. They're going to rebuild Sepix Prime, but I'd imagine this new version of Sepix with the Seaver tech is going to be a lot bigger and a lot uglier. This Seaver technology is definitely very powerful, so I'd imagine we're going to be facing this new Seaver version of Sepix Prime in this new version of the Rocketyard, which appears to be also included in the patrol of the Plague Lands. Finally, we can also compare the difference in the new version of the Cosmodrome to the old, where the wall has been completely blown apart. This is a side-by-side comparison, so you can see just how decimated the wall has been, and this is exactly where it's going to take place. It seems that this is basically the link in between the Plague Lands and, of course, the new snowy version of the Cosmodrome, and I personally really want to see what happens in the cutscene and how the wall gets blown open. I really want to see what weapon it is the Fallen have that managed to do such a massive hole in the wall, because it's going to be impressive, and I cannot wait to see that cutscene. So that has been a look at the new version of the Cosmodrome we can expect in the Rise of Iron expansion, and how their landscape has been changed slightly with new areas. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on everything I've talked about, and your theories on what's happened to this area. Be sure to give a like rating on the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.